Hey there everyone. In today's video, we are going to learn how to accept user inputs in our Express application. Before I start the video, I have a request. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel so that my video reaches to a wider audience and which in turn helps me in getting motivated and help me in staying on track when it comes to producing some awesome quality stuff for you guys. So let's dive right into the video. So in order to accept data from the user, we have three major ways in Express. The first one is the dynamic routes, which we have already seen in the previous video, that we can use rec.params in order to get data from the routes itself. If you haven't seen that video, I would request you to go back and watch that video first, because we are not going to cover that thing in this particular video. In this video, we are going to be talking about and learning about these two methods. So the other method to accept user input is via a query string. So a query string is what comes after your URL. So let's suppose you have a URL like this, example.com. So this is your URL, and if you need to provide some data to the server, you can use a query string which has a form like this: a question mark, then the key name and the value name. And if you want to put in more key values, then you have to use this ampersand sign. Okay, this is not ampersand, this is and sign, and then the next key and the value to that key. So this way you can share data with the server, and in order to get this sort of data on the server side, we can use something like rec.query. So let's first of all create an endpoint, and then we will use this rec.query to get our data. So we are going to start and build on the foundation which we have already laid in my previous video. So we are on the routing branch. Let's change it to get checkout -b, and this is going to be user input. So this is going to be our branch name. Now whatever we are going to code is going to reside on this particular branch. Okay, let's get back here and let's create a new route, app.get, and then let's create a new route called input, and then create a function rec.res, and we can do something like res.send rec.query. So we are simply outputting whatever we are getting as a query string. Okay, so let's see what we get. So we need to start the server. Okay, this command, and let's open Postman. Let's also enter a comment here while it boots. Query string, let's call it using query string. Okay, or better call it consuming. It has been booted up, and instead of books we can do something like input, and it says that it doesn't work because the port number is 3000. So let's quickly change the port number to 8000, and let's boot our application, and now let's issue a get request. So as you can see that our rec.query is actually an empty object, and whatever we are going to provide as a key value pair to the query string is going to be populated inside this object. So let's quickly do that. So we are going to create a new key value pair, that is name, and the value is Rajat. Let's send this thing, and now we can see that we have gotten this key value pair in our rec.query object as well. So this way you can use or accept some data from the end user. So since this method actually shows your data in the URL itself, it is not very safe. It is not considered safe when it comes to sharing data with the server. So if you are sending some confidential data to the server, query string is generally not preferred. Query string is basically used for doing common things like pagination. Like let's suppose you want to get a page number 2 of any application, then you can use query string in order to send that thing. Otherwise, if you want to share some confidential data with the server, query string is not a preferred way. Okay, one more thing which you can use, which I forgot to mention over here, is that the header part, rec.header. Okay, so headers are generally not used to share data. Basically they are just the meta information which you want to exchange with the server in order to allow the server to do certain other thing which is not client facing, which is not user facing. So you can do that sort of thing using headers. But yes, in case you want to pass some data to the server, header is also a way to do that. Let's see how we can use headers to do that. So in the same thing, we can write something like rest.header. Okay. And let's see, let's reboot the server and let's do this. And we have gotten some because this form is not correct as I was expecting. So let's do one thing, create an object and have a key called query, and inside this query it is going to have a value of rec.query and header and rec.header. Now it is a single object which this res.set command can serialize or convert into a format where it can be sent easily to the end user. Let's do this. And as you can see that we have gotten our query here, but no headers. So let's see how we can access headers in Express. Go here and search for headers. Okay. And not headers, but rec.header. Okay. So it turns out that there is nothing like rec.header, but rec.gets. If you want to get a key from the header, rec.get is the thing which you want to use. So let's suppose we want to get a header called app name. Let's call it app name. Okay. App and then name. And now if we do that, we are going to not get any app name because it is not yet defined. So this particular header is a user defined entity, which means that it can be defined from the user's side because we are talking about accepting input from the user, from the external world. So let's go back to the headers tab in our Postman and create a new header called app name. And here you can do something like YouTube Express app, something like this. So this is a custom header which I have set. Let's send this thing, and now we have gotten our data inside this rec.get method by using this app name key. Okay, so this way you can send some arbitrary data using headers as well. The advantage you get here is that headers are not generally visible to the end user, although they are logged on server side logs, and also they are also cached on various server side caches. So make sure you are not sending any confidential data in the headers. Headers are also used for sending some meta information as we've already talked about. But yes, if you want to send some arbitrary data as well, headers can be used. So till now we have seen three methods to exchange data with the server: dynamic routes, query string, and headers, right? The other remaining part, which is the most common part, is sending data in the request body. So this is the most common way to send confidential data in a post request, because post requests are opaque and the body you are sending in the post request is generally encoded, so it is not seen, right? But again, you have to use several other measures like using a HTTPS protocol so that nothing can eavesdrop the data you are sending to the server, right? So post requests are generally opaque and are considered safe to send confidential data, and that's what we are going to do next. We are going to go back here and create a post route for input, and then we are going to have a callback function rest.send and again request.body, because that is where our request data is going to land. If we are sending our data using the body clause, we are going to get our data inside rec.body. So let's quickly restart the server and see how we can send data in the body. So let's duplicate this thing, duplicate tab, and switch the request to post. Get rid of this thing, okay, because we are not yet concerned about query strings. And as you can see, we have gotten nothing. The output is blank because in rec.body we have got nothing. Okay, so in order to get the user's data in rec.body, we have to use something called as body parser. But let's see how we can send data first of all. So send data in the raw format and switch the format to JSON and send some data. Let's do name, okay, and Rajat. So this is going to be our data which we want to send in the request body of our post request, okay. And this is the way how you can do it in Postman. If you are using some other REST client, the instructions or the interface may look different, but the gist of it is more or less the same. Okay, so now we are actually sending some data to the server, and let's send it again. We have gotten nothing, because now even if we are sending the data, the server is not in a state where it can actually access and process that particular data. So let's use body parser for that. Shut this program down. Do npm install body parser, because it is not distributed with Express anymore. Go back and require it here, body parser. Okay, and then inside this do app.choose body parser.json. Okay, so basically here we are actually using a middleware. This is how you use a middleware, and this one thing is actually the middleware. What it is telling Express is that okay, whenever you get some sort of JSON data in the request body, I can process it. So basically what it does is that it sees the content type header in the request. So as we've already seen, that headers is a way to get data from the end user, right? So whenever you make a request using a RESTful client or your browser, you attach a content type header in the request headers area, and it says that whatever sort of data you are actually sending. So if you are sending JSON like we are sending here from the client, it attaches a header called content type, and the value is set to application/JSON. I can also show you that. So if you go to this code tab here and try to see it, you will see that it is actually attaching a header here, and the key for that header is content type, and the type is application.json. So this particular middleware sees this, and then it knows that now I can process this thing. So whatever data you are sending in your request, it takes that data, processes it, and populate that data into rect.body, this thing, rect.body, and then our Express application can use it. We can access it inside this callback handler function. Okay, so let's quickly start our server and let's see whether it works. Let's close this as well and send this thing, and now we have gotten our data inside the rect.body option. Okay, so this way we can accept random arbitrary data confidentially in Express. So we have covered all four major ways of getting user data, and you can use any of these methods depending upon your requirement in order to get data from the user and do whatever you want to do with the user. So for example, let's suppose I want to write an echo message by consuming user's name, whatever name has been provided to the endpoint. So I can do something like this, constant, and I'm using a destructuring syntax over here, request.body. Okay, and then do something like hello, and then let's not use this notation but this template notation, hello, and then name. Let's restart the server. So what we are doing here is that we are simply getting the name from request.body and then simply outputting a hello name, hello Rajat. So if I change the name here, I will simply get hello. So this is how you can use the request bodies data or request headers data or request parents data or request queries data in your callback handlers and do the work accordingly as per your use case. If you have any doubt, make sure you leave a comment on this video or any video for that matter. I will try to address your comment to the best of my knowledge. And in the next video, we are going to talk about outputting data from Express and how to output different sorts of data. I'll see you over in the next video.